Hello, my name is Hunter Dunbar. I'm a senior consultant at Cervelo. This video is going to document some of the things that you can do with the Salesforce Reporting API. So one of the things that you run into as a Salesforce administrator is the ability to manage your Salesforce reports. I know that when I'm creating reports, 90% of the time I'm creating a one-off report and saving it off, and the number of reports in your system can balloon to pretty large numbers. And sometimes you need to make a change to a field in Salesforce, you need to make a change to a value or a pick list, which can have cascading effects to the reports in your system. And this recently happened with a client where they wanted to change the opportunity type field from new to new client and from add to expansion. And so the issue becomes, all right, well, we're changing the pick list value for all the reports, or sorry, all the opportunities in your org from new to new client. Any report that currently says type is equal to new is going to break because it should say type is equal to new client. Updating those reports is not very painful, but we need to find the reports, and it's a pain to have to go through every single report in the system. So what are the options when we're going through this? The first thing that I investigated was, does Workbench have access to that level of granularity? And the answer is no. You can get some information out of Workbench, like the format of the report, the name of the report. You can query the description. So maybe if you had kept information in, if you had been diligent about keeping information in the description field, you might have been able to pull that data out. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to query the filters and the values that you find in reports. So luckily Salesforce does provide some ability to get at the real metadata of a report. And what we're gonna walk through is these report describe result methods. And I've included links in my PowerPoint presentation here, which will take you out to all of the different ways that you can query metadata in reports. But specifically in the example that we're going to talk about today, we're looking at the get report metadata method. And so in practice, what we're going to do is we're going to use this report manager class and use the describe method to query a single report ID. So this describe report accepts an ID as a parameter, and then it's going to return an object called a report describe result. And once we've got a report describe result, we can use the get report metadata method to get all of the metadata about this report. And so when we debug this little snippet, you can execute this in the developer console if you want to see for yourself how it works, but basically it's going to give us a ton of report metadata. So there's a ton of information here that you could query, and for this example I'm just using filters, but you could try to pull out historical snapshot dates. You could try and pull out the groupings. We've got date filter information. There's a lot here to review, but specifically what I want to talk about is this report filters equals, then there's a report filter object, and we're saying the column is equal to this position status, so that's the object in the field. The operator is equals, so if you were saying, let's say contains, operator would capture that that it would be a contains operation in your report filter. And then value is the actual values. So let me just pull open a report. So for this filter, it would be, so position status would be the column, equals is the operator, and then opened approved and closed filled would be the values. So we're going to do this. So this is great. We get all the information that we need, but we can only do it one report at a time, because we can't pass a list to this describe report. We need to only do one report at a time. And so this can get this can really be challenging when we start to run into Salesforce processing limits. So I think a job can only run for 60 seconds. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a batch job, which will be able to handle an unlimited number of reports. Basically, the batch job is going to take select ID and developer name from reports. So we'll take every report in the entire org, and for every report in the org, we will describe the report. Then using that result, we'll get the report metadata. Then using the result from that, we'll get report filters. And then with that result, we can use the get column and get value methods to get filter information. And once we've compiled all that information, we'll just send an email with a list of the report IDs and the names. And so as you can imagine, when you're doing this, if instead of having to click through 1,000 reports in your system, this batch job is going to go through each report, and it's going to just send you a list of reports. And it's not always going to be perfect. There might be a situation where we said, give me a column that contains the word new, and there's a lot of different report filters that might contain, well, not the value, but sorry, not the column, but the value might contain new. So it won't be perfect, but it'll significantly limit the number of reports that you need to sift through. So the way that I've implemented this is to take just a simple Visualforce page, and the Visualforce page accepts 3 values. So the first is report filter value. So this is saying, give me reports where the filter value is equal to closed dash filled. And then we can also say stuff like, well, give me report filters that are equal to, let's say, type, or contain the word type. And you could do this really for any field that your reports have. So like we could say position status here. And I actually don't think, I think it's going to look for the actual API name for that field. So that would be, I don't need to get it exactly right, but I know that it's going to contain status __ C. Alright, so I'm going to click execute batch, and what's going to happen is we're going to submit that data to my batch class, and basically it accepts a string. It accepts 3 strings for the filter value, and then I believe the email address. And we're going to get every report in the system. When we execute the job, we're going to take, for each report, we're going to pass the ID to describe report. We're then going to get the report metadata, and then using the report metadata, we're going to get the report filters. And for each filter, so for each filter for each report, we're then going to say, does the column contain the filter that we specified? So does it contain status __ C? Or does the filter value contain the value that we specified? So I think the value was closed dash filled. If it does, if either of these conditions are true, we're going to add the report to a list, and we're going to create a report string with the ID and the name. And then, once that's complete, we're going to send an email, and the email is going to contain that rep string that we created up above. And so when that email comes through, I can see that I've got this report ID, and the name of the report is recruiter status. I've got this report ID, and the name of the report is average days to hire with and without travel. I've got this report string which says open positions by functional area. And so what I could do is I could go, and when I paste in the ID, here's my report, and I know that this is the report that I'm going to need to edit if I've made any field changes. So this is a pretty specific case, but I think that it shows all the options that you have with the Reporting Metadata API and how you don't need to rely on manual checking to review your reports. You have the ability to get at this data, and it can make your life easier when it comes to updating large quantities of reports. If you have any questions, you can email me at hdunbar@mycervelo.com. Additionally, this package, or the code here, is packaged, and I will link the unmanaged package in the description of this YouTube video. Thank you.